Hey guys, tonight we're going to unfurl a story as intricate and beautiful as the subject itself, the ancient art of Persian carpet weaving. Imagine yourself, if you will, not scrolling on a tiny screen, but instead, feeling the coarse, sun-warmed wool beneath your fingers, hearing the rhythmic thwack of a comb against tightly drawn threads, smelling the subtle, earthy scent of undyed fibers mingled with something vaguely floral from a nearby dye pot. You're in a world where time isn't measured by tweets per minute, but by the slow, deliberate growth of a pattern, row by patient row. You probably won't survive a day without Wi-Fi, but you'll certainly find a strange, comforting peace in this journey. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And as you settle in, let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to imagine us all, scattered across the globe, sharing this quiet moment. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Our story begins not in grand palaces, but on the windswept steppes and vast deserts of ancient Persia, a land now known as Iran. For thousands of years, nomadic tribes roamed these landscapes, their lives intertwined with their flocks of sheep and goats. These early pastoralists weren't just shepherds, they were ingenious creators, driven by necessity and a burgeoning sense of artistry. You see, the ground could be cold, hard, and unforgiving. So, what do you do when you live a life on the move, facing harsh elements? You find a way to make your portable shelter, your tent, a little more cozy, a little more insulated, a little more, well, homey. This is where the story of the Persian carpet truly takes root. The earliest evidence of knotted pile fabrics, what we'd recognize as carpets, takes us back an astonishingly long time, perhaps as far as the 5th century BCE. The most famous example, and frankly, one of the most miraculous archaeological finds in textile history, is the Pazyryk carpet. Discovered in a frozen Scythian burial mound in Siberia in the late 1940s, this astonishing relic survived 2.5 millennia encased in ice. Imagine that, a carpet, woven by human hands over 2,000 years ago, preserved so perfectly you can still marvel at its intricate details. It's like finding a perfectly intact ancient smartphone, if ancient smartphones were woven from wool. Historians still argue whether the Pazyryk carpet was indeed Persian in origin or a remarkably sophisticated Scythian imitation influenced by Persian techniques. But its mere existence speaks volumes about the antiquity and sophistication of the craft in the wider region. Think about the sheer dedication it must have taken to create something like the Pazyryk carpet with the rudimentary tools available back then. You're not just knotting threads, you're expressing a culture, a connection to the land, a way of life. These early carpets, often called kilims or flatweaves before they evolved into piled carpets, were more than just floor coverings. They were portable warmth, insulation against the chill, and even decorative elements that transformed a simple tent into a vibrant, personal space. You could roll them up, pack them on a camel or donkey, and take your comfort with you wherever you went. It was the original glamping accessory, long before anyone thought of calling it that. The evolution from simple flat weaves to intricate knotted piles was a slow, organic process, driven by both practical needs and an escalating desire for beauty. Imagine a group of nomads, perhaps around a flickering campfire, noticing how the stray strands of wool on a simple woven mat provided extra cushioning. Maybe someone got bored and started tying knots, just to see what would happen. And from such humble beginnings, a monumental art form began to unfurl. The knots created a denser, warmer, and more durable fabric, perfect for insulation against the brutal desert nights or the biting steppe winds. It was like upgrading from a thin sleeping bag to a luxurious feather duvet, but one that you made yourself, not by painstaking knot. The wool itself would have been a primary resource. Sheep and goats, being central to nomadic life, provided not only food and milk, but also the raw material for clothing, shelters, and, of course, textiles. You're shearing the sheep, cleaning the wool, spinning it into yarn, all by hand, of course. No electric shears, no industrial washing machines. Just you, the sheep, and a lot of elbow grease. And perhaps a bit of dust. A lot of dust, actually. It's a far cry from clicking add to cart on Amazon. Once the wool was shorn and cleaned, a process that involved a lot of beating to get the dust out, probably making quite a cacophony, like a rhythmic, ancient laundry day, it needed to be spun into yarn. Imagine sitting by a fire, the sun setting, and you're endlessly twisting fibers with a drop spindle. It's a meditative act, isn't it? The rhythmic hum of the spinning, the feel of the wool becoming a strong, continuous thread. This isn't just about making yarn. It's about connecting with the very essence of the animal and the land. You're transforming raw material into something usable, durable, and ready to hold color. Color. This is where the magic truly began to bloom. Before synthetic dyes, every hue, every shade, every vibrant splash of color in a Persian carpet came directly from nature. Think about that for a moment. No chemical factories, no fluorescent vats. You're foraging in fields, trekking through mountains, extracting pigments from plants, insects, and even minerals. It's like being a culinary alchemist, but for textiles. For instance, the rich, deep reds that are so characteristic of many Persian carpets, those often came from the madder root, a plant painstakingly cultivated and harvested. The roots would be dried, crushed, and then simmered in water, releasing their incredible crimson potential. It's a messy, smelly business, but the results were undeniably stunning. For blues, weavers turned to indigo, a legendary dye derived from the Indigofera tinctoria plant. Preparing indigo dye was a complex process, often involving fermentation, which could produce a rather earthy aroma. Let's just say it wasn't the kind of scent you'd find in a luxury candle. You'd probably hold your nose and marvel at the transformation as the yellowish liquid slowly oxidized in the air, revealing a glorious, deep blue. And for yellows, there was a surprising array of natural sources: pomegranate rinds, saffron, turmeric, and even the humble onion skin. Each would produce a slightly different shade, from a soft, buttery cream to a brilliant, sunny gold. It's like a natural paint-by-numbers kit, provided by Mother Earth herself. Greens were typically achieved by combining blue indigo with yellow dyes, creating a spectrum of verdant shades that mirrored the landscapes around them. Blacks were often derived from iron filings mixed with tannins from oak galls, a more somber but equally important color for outlining motifs. And for a striking white, well, that was usually the natural color of undyed wool itself, celebrated for its purity and contrast. The mordants, the substances used to fix the dyes to the wool fibers so they wouldn't wash out, were also natural. Alum, found in mineral deposits, was a common choice, as was sour milk or even certain plant ashes. Historians still argue whether early nomadic weavers fully understood the complex chemistry at play or simply discovered these processes through generations of trial and error, passing down recipes that worked without necessarily knowing why. It's a bit like your grandmother's secret cookie recipe. You just know it's good. You don't need a scientific explanation for the magic. Imagine a group of women, their hands stained with the colors of the earth, carefully preparing these dye baths. The air would be thick with the smell of simmering plants, a gentle steam rising from the vats. The wool would be carefully submerged, stirred, and then slowly removed, transformed by the power of nature's palette. Each batch of dye, each dip of the wool, would be slightly unique, lending an organic variation to the finished carpet that synthetics can never quite replicate. It's why true connoisseurs of ancient carpets can sometimes even tell the region of origin just by the subtle differences in the reds or blues, a testament to the local flora and traditional dyeing practices. It's a subtle signature woven into the very fibers. And while the dyeing process was fascinating, it was also fraught with challenges. Consistency was difficult to achieve, and a single rainy day or a slight variation in water temperature could alter an entire batch of yarn. This wasn't a factory assembly line. It was an organic, fluid process, subject to the whims of nature and the keen eye of the dyer. You're not just mixing colors. You're engaging in a delicate dance with the elements, hoping for the perfect shade to emerge. It truly makes you appreciate the vibrant hues of an ancient Persian carpet, knowing the immense effort and natural artistry that went into every single thread. With the wool now spun into glorious, naturally dyed yarns, the next step was the actual act of weaving. And for this, you didn't need a sprawling factory, just a simple, ingenious device, the loom. For nomadic tribes and early village weavers, the most common type was the horizontal loom. Imagine two sturdy beams laid out on the ground, or slightly elevated, with the warp threads, the foundational vertical threads that run the length of the carpet, stretched tightly between them. It's wonderfully portable, simple to set up, and can be moved from campsite to campsite as the seasons change. You could literally pack up your entire weaving operation and take it with you, like a very slow, very intricate board game. Then there's the vertical loom, which became more prevalent as weaving moved into settled villages and then into urban workshops. This type of loom stands upright, with the warp threads stretched vertically. It allows for larger, more complex carpets to be woven, as the weaver can work standing or sitting on a bench, accessing the entire width of the piece more easily. Imagine a weaver sitting in front of this towering wooden frame, their hands moving with practiced precision, tying thousands upon thousands of knots. It's less a machine and more a giant, artistic abacus. The tools themselves were wonderfully basic, yet incredibly effective. You wouldn't find any whirring motors or digital displays here. The primary tool was the knife, often with a small hook on one end. This hook was used to pick up the warp threads, and the blade to cut the yarn after each knot was tied. Then came the comb beater, a heavy, fork-like tool with metal teeth. After a row of knots was tied and the horizontal weft threads were inserted, the weaver would take this comb and thwack it down with force, compacting the knots and weft tightly against the previous row. This wasn't just about neatness. It was crucial for the carpet's density, durability, and the clarity of its design. The rhythmic thwack 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 of the comb would have been the soundtrack to countless hours of weaving, a slow, hypnotic beat. Another essential tool was the shears. As the pile of the carpet grew, it would become uneven, a shaggy landscape of loops. The weaver would periodically trim the pile with shears, like giving the carpet a very precise haircut. This is what creates the velvet-like surface and defines the intricate patterns. Imagine the skill required to shear a dense, uneven surface perfectly level, ensuring every motif stands out crisply. It's an art in itself, requiring a steady hand and an eye for detail that would make a modern hairdresser weep with envy. The knots themselves are the heart of the Persian carpet. There are two primary types: the Persian knot, also known as the Senna knot, and the Turkish knot, or Gyurz knot. The Persian knot is asymmetrical, tied around one warp thread and under the next, creating a slightly finer, denser pile. The Turkish knot is symmetrical, tied around two warp threads, resulting in a slightly coarser but often very durable pile. Historians still argue whether one type of knot is inherently superior to the other, as both have produced masterpieces. It's a bit like debating whether a fountain pen or a ballpoint pen is better. Both can write a beautiful story, just in a different style. The choice of knot often depended on regional traditions, the desired texture, and the intricacy of the design. Imagine you are sitting at one of these looms. Your fingers, agile and swift, are plucking individual warp threads, looping the colored yarn, and tying a knot, then another, then another. Each knot is a tiny, deliberate act. You might tie anywhere from hundreds to thousands of knots per day, depending on the complexity of the design and your skill. A single large carpet could take months, even years, to complete, the culmination of countless individual knots, each one a testament to patience and perseverance. It's the ultimate slow craft, utterly at odds with our modern instant gratification world. You can almost feel the gentle ache in your back, the calluses forming on your fingertips, and the quiet satisfaction of seeing a pattern slowly emerge from the chaos of threads. As the art of carpet weaving evolved, a fascinating divergence began to emerge between the village or nomadic weaving traditions and the more formal city or workshop weaving. Imagine two very different scenes, both creating beauty, but with distinct approaches and purposes. In the villages and among the nomadic tribes, weaving was, and often still is, a deeply personal and functional art form. You're not just making a product, you're creating a piece of your home, a reflection of your family, and a record of your life. These carpets, often woven on horizontal looms, tend to be smaller and more manageable for transportation. Their designs are typically less formal, more organic, and often carry a charming spontaneity. You might see patterns that are slightly asymmetrical, a quirky motif here or there, or colors that subtly shift due to variations in dye batches. These aren't flaws, they're the unique signatures of the weaver and the natural dyes. It's like comparing a carefully curated gallery painting to a vibrant, heartfelt folk art piece you'd find at a local market. Both beautiful, but one is less constrained by formal rules. The patterns in village and nomadic carpets often tell stories. reflecting the immediate environment and beliefs of the weaver. You might see stylized animals from the surrounding pastures, abstract representations of mountains or rivers, or symbols representing protection, fertility, or good fortune. These designs were often passed down through generations, not through written diagrams, but through memory and practice, from mother to daughter, aunt to niece. You're learning by doing, by watching, by absorbing the rhythm and the tradition. It's a living heritage, constantly reinterpreted with each new hand that touches the loom. Historians still argue whether some of the earliest geometric patterns in nomadic carpets held complex cosmological meanings or were simply visually pleasing arrangements. Perhaps a bit of both, often the way these things go. Now, shift your focus to the city workshops. Here, weaving transformed into a more organized, sometimes even industrial, endeavor. These workshops, often supported by wealthy patrons, royalty, or powerful merchants, could afford larger, fixed vertical looms and had access to a wider range of resources and skilled artisans. The goal here wasn't just personal utility. It was often about creating grand, exquisite pieces for palaces, mosques, and aristocratic homes, or for lucrative international trade. The designs in city carpets became much more formal, intricate, and meticulously planned. Imagine a master designer, known as a nakash, drawing out the elaborate patterns on paper, sometimes to scale, before any knot is tied. These designs often featured complex floral motifs, intricate medallions, hunting scenes, or garden landscapes, all rendered with astonishing precision. The color palettes were usually more refined, with a wider array of subtle shades made possible by larger dye houses and more controlled processes. Consistency was key, and symmetry was often paramount. It's like the difference between improvisational jazz and a meticulously composed symphony. Both require immense skill, but follow different structures. The weavers in these workshops were often highly specialized artisans, some focusing solely on knotting, others on shearing, and still others on the finishing processes. Apprenticeships were common, and young weavers would spend years learning the intricate techniques, often starting with simpler sections before moving on to the complex curves and precise color changes required for the grand designs. You're not just learning to tie a knot. You're learning to interpret a detailed blueprint, to execute a vision with unwavering precision. It could be a long, quiet apprenticeship where your hands became your teachers. One quirky tidbit about city workshops: sometimes, particularly for very large and complex carpets, multiple weavers would work side by side on the same loom. Imagine the challenge of maintaining a consistent tension, knot size, and even personal knotting style across several individuals. It required incredible teamwork and a shared understanding of the overall design, a silent symphony of hands working in concert. You can almost hear the soft murmur of instructions, the gentle corrections, and the shared sighs of satisfaction as a difficult section comes together. It's a collective endeavor, where the individual disappears into the masterpiece. Beyond their practical utility as warmth and comfort, Persian carpets became profound storytellers, weaving narratives not with words, but with intricate patterns and vibrant colors. The symbolism embedded in traditional carpet motifs is incredibly rich and layered, a visual language understood by generations of weavers and discerning eyes. Imagine each tiny knot as a pixel in a grand, ancient image, conveying meaning, hope, and even a touch of ancient wisdom. It's like finding a secret code in every thread. Perhaps the most universally recognized motif is the garden. Persia, with its often arid landscape, revered water and greenery. So, it's no surprise that many carpets depict lush, idealized gardens, complete with flowing streams, blossoming trees, and sometimes even animals. These aren't just pretty pictures. They represent paradise, a heavenly oasis of abundance and tranquility. You might see a central medallion representing a pool or fountain, with various floral elements radiating outwards, creating a serene, symmetrical vision. It's a promise of refreshment in a parched land, a little piece of Eden underfoot. Then there are the medallions themselves, often circular or oval, dominating the center of many classical designs. These can symbolize the sun, the moon, a flower, or even the eye of God, representing perfection, eternity, or a divine presence. Sometimes, smaller corner medallions echo the central design, creating a harmonious balance. It's like a cosmic map laid out before you, guiding your gaze to the heart of the design. Historians still argue whether the earliest medallion designs were inspired by ancient architectural domes or intricately illuminated manuscripts. Perhaps the influence flowed both ways, a beautiful synergy of art forms. Animals also play a significant role. You might encounter graceful gazelles, powerful lions, or majestic birds, often engaged in hunting scenes or simply depicted amidst flourishing foliage. These weren't just decorative elements. They could symbolize strength, courage, nobility, or even the cycle of life and death. The mythical simurgh, a benevolent, phoenix-like bird, frequently appears, representing wisdom and guidance. It's like an ancient bestiary brought to life in wool. And sometimes, you'll find a quirky, stylized animal tucked away in a corner, a tiny, almost hidden signature of the weaver, perhaps a little mischievous cat or a playful bird. These little individual touches add a charming personality to the otherwise formal patterns. Floral motifs are ubiquitous and incredibly diverse. From delicate roses and lilies to abstract palmettes and intertwining vines, each flower carries its own meaning. The cypress tree, tall and evergreen, often symbolizes eternity, strength, and life. The tree of life motif, depicting a flourishing tree with birds and animals nestled in its branches, represents growth, continuity, and the connection between heaven and earth. It's like walking through an ancient botanical garden, where every bloom whispers a secret. Imagine the weaver, carefully selecting each color, each shade, to evoke the precise nuance of a petal or a leaf. Geometric patterns, especially prominent in nomadic and village carpets, also hold deep symbolic meaning. Zigzags might represent water or lightning, while diamonds and triangles could symbolize eyes, stars, or protection against evil. The repeated patterns often evoke a sense of infinity and cosmic order. There's a subtle, hypnotic quality to these designs, drawing your eye into a mesmerizing rhythm. One quirky tidbit: some very old nomadic carpets feature tiny, almost imperceptible human figures or simplified animal forms woven into the abstract geometry, a silent self-portrait or a nod to the weaver's personal world. It's like finding a hidden Easter egg in an ancient tapestry. The very act of weaving itself was imbued with spiritual significance. Each knot tied was a prayer, a meditation, a wish for well-being or prosperity. The creation of a carpet was a slow, deliberate act of bringing beauty and meaning into the world, a tangible manifestation of belief and culture. You're not just making a rug, you're crafting a piece of living history, infused with centuries of tradition and symbolism. And as you gaze upon these patterns, you can almost hear the echoes of ancient stories, whispered across generations, woven into the very fabric beneath your feet. It's a silent language, waiting for you to decipher its gentle messages. While village and nomadic weavers carried on their traditions, the art of Persian carpet weaving reached its zenith under royal patronage, particularly during the Safavid dynasty, 1501 to 1736 CE. Imagine a time when kings weren't just commissioning impressive buildings, but also entire legions of artisans dedicated to perfecting every conceivable craft. This was the golden age for Persian carpets, a period when weaving transcended mere utility and became a revered, sophisticated art form. It's like the Renaissance for rugs, but with more intricate knots and less fresco painting. Shah Tahmasp reigned 1524 to 1576, and Shah Abbas I reigned 1588 to 1629, were particularly instrumental in this flourishing. These powerful rulers understood the immense cultural and economic value of carpets. They weren't just comfortable floor coverings. They were diplomatic gifts of unparalleled luxury, symbols of wealth, power, and refined taste. Sending a magnificent Persian carpet to a foreign dignitary was far more impressive than a fruit basket. It was a statement of imperial grandeur. Under Safavid rule, large, royal workshops were established, primarily in cities like Isfahan, Kashan, Kerman, and Tabriz. These weren't dusty village sheds. They were often grand, organized ateliers, sometimes directly overseen by court officials. Imagine a bustling complex, filled with the quiet hum of looms, the rhythmic thwack of beater combs, and the soft murmur of instruction. Here, the finest materials were sourced, the most skilled master weavers and designers were employed, and a meticulous, almost industrial, level of quality control was maintained. You're talking about precision work on a scale previously unseen, leading to some of the most intricate and visually stunning carpets ever created. The designs themselves became exponentially more complex and sophisticated. Master designers, often celebrated artists in their own right, created intricate cartoons or blueprints that weavers followed with astonishing fidelity. These designs often featured elaborate floral motifs, sweeping arabesques, hunting scenes teeming with stylized animals, and breathtaking garden layouts that rivaled the actual royal gardens in their beauty. The color palettes expanded dramatically, with an astonishing array of subtle shades and transitions, achieved through advanced dyeing techniques in larger, dedicated dye houses. It's like moving from a simple watercolor to a rich, oil painting, with layers of depth and nuance. One mainstream historical fact from this era is that the Safavid court actively promoted the export of these luxury carpets. They understood that these weren't just beautiful objects. They were valuable commodities that brought immense wealth and prestige to the empire. European monarchs and aristocrats clamored for these exquisite pieces, which found their way into palaces, churches, and grand estates across the continent. Imagine a Persian carpet, meticulously woven in Isfahan, traveling thousands of miles by camel caravan and then by ship, to finally grace the floor of a European castle. It's a testament to the global reach of this ancient art form. A quirky tidbit: some royal Safavid carpets were so finely woven and intricate that they could take a team of weavers more than a decade to complete. Think about that commitment, dedicating 10 years of your life, day in and day out, to a single object. It wasn't just a job, it was a profound act of creation. You weren't just a weaver, you were a living part of a masterpiece, your skill etched into every single knot. Historians still argue whether the decline of the Safavid Empire ultimately led to a decline in carpet quality or simply a shift in production. While the Safavid era is rightly celebrated as a peak, later periods also produced remarkable carpets, albeit with different styles and approaches. It's not always a straight line from golden age to decline. Sometimes, it's more of a meandering river, finding new paths and expressions. But there's no doubt that the Safavid period set an incredibly high bar for Persian carpet weaving, a legacy that continues to inspire and awe us centuries later. You can almost feel the presence of those ancient hands, guiding the threads, creating a timeless beauty that whispers stories of empires and artistry. Among the many masterpieces produced during the Safavid era, one carpet stands out as truly legendary: the Ardabil carpet. This isn't just a carpet. It's a monumental work of art, a silent testament to the pinnacle of Persian weaving skill. Imagine a carpet so vast and intricately detailed that it took a team of master weavers years, perhaps even a decade, to complete. It's like gazing upon a woven universe. The Ardabil carpet was originally one of a pair, commissioned for the shrine of Sheikh Safi al-Din Ardabilai, the Sufi mystic ancestor of the Safavid dynasty, in Ardabil, Iran. It was completed in 1539 to 1540 CE, during the reign of Shah Tahmasp. This makes it not only one of the oldest dated carpets in the world, but also one of the most historically significant. You're not just looking at a beautiful object, you're looking at a piece of history that witnessed centuries unfold. The sheer scale of the Ardabil carpet is breathtaking. It measures approximately 34 feet long by 17.5 feet wide, around 10.3 meters by 5.3 meters, making it a truly enormous piece. It's so big, you'd need a fairly large room just to unroll it. The knot count is equally astounding. Approximately 340 knots per square inch, about 5,300 knots per square decimeter. Do the math on that for the entire carpet, and you're talking about roughly 26 million individual knots. Yes, you heard that right, 26 million knots. That's more knots than most of us will ever tie in our entire lives, unless you're a very dedicated sailor with a lot of spare time. The design of the Ardabil carpet is a classic example of Safavid artistry, a magnificent central medallion, representing a celestial dome or a shining sun, surrounded by an intricate field of swirling floral motifs, vines, and arabesques. Two mosque lamps, of slightly different sizes, hang from the central medallion, an intentional asymmetry that some historians believe was meant to create a sense of perspective, as if one lamp were closer to the viewer. It's a subtle touch, but once you notice it, you can't unsee it. Historians still argue whether this asymmetry was purely for artistic effect or had a deeper symbolic meaning related to the shrine itself. The borders are equally elaborate, featuring cartouches, oblong frames, containing inscriptions, including a verse from a poem by the 14th century Persian poet Hafiz, which reads, "I have no refuge in the world other than thy threshold. My head has no protection other than this portal." The inscription also includes the date of completion and the name of the weaver, Maksud of Kashan, a rare instance of a weaver signing his masterpiece, a testament to its importance and the weaver's pride. It's like the artist's signature on a Renaissance painting, quietly asserting their genius. The colors of the artibial carpet are remarkably vibrant, even after centuries. Rich blues, reds, yellows, and greens, all derived from natural dyes, create a harmonious and captivating palette. Imagine the dyers carefully preparing these hues, knowing they were contributing to a royal commission that would become legendary. It's a testament to the longevity of natural pigments when properly prepared and maintained. A mainstream historical fact regarding its provenance is that the artibial carpet remained in the shrine for centuries, enduring earthquakes and various political upheavals. However, in the late 19th century, suffering from damage, it was sold to a British carpet dealer to raise funds for the shrine's repairs. It was later acquired by the Victoria and Albert Museum in London, where it is now one of their most prized possessions. A quirky tidbit is that the second artibial carpet, the pair to the one in London, is now in the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, LACMA. It was meticulously restored, using pieces from the damaged parts of the original carpet to fill in gaps. So, in a way, parts of the two carpets are forever intertwined, a fascinating detail for such an important pair. You could say they're long-distance siblings, separated by an ocean but united by shared threads. As we marvel at the intricate beauty of the artibial carpet, it's easy to forget the human element, the countless hours of painstaking labor that went into its creation. So, let's imagine ourselves as an ancient Persian weaver, experiencing the daily life of a carpet maker. This wasn't a 9 to 5 job with a lunch break and a pension plan. It was a demanding, meticulous craft, often passed down through generations within families or specific workshops. Imagine waking with the sun, the soft light filtering into your small home or the communal workshop. The air is already stirring with the scent of wool, dust, and maybe a faint hint of dye. Your loom, whether a simple horizontal frame on the ground or a towering vertical structure, is your world for the day. You settle onto a low bench or cushion, your fingers already anticipating the familiar feel of the warped threads. It's a slow, quiet start, almost meditative, as your hands begin their dance. The work is repetitive, but never truly monotonous for a skilled weaver. Each knot is identical in its tying method, but each thread of color contributes to a larger, unfolding masterpiece. You're not just tying knots, you're painting with yarn, bringing a design to life, inch by painstaking inch. Your eyes are constantly on the naksh or pattern diagram, if you're in a city workshop, or your mind's eye if you're a nomadic weaver carrying generations of designs in your memory. You're counting knots, ensuring the pattern is perfectly aligned, checking for any missed threads or color discrepancies. It's a constant mental engagement, a dance between precision and intuition. The physical demands are considerable. Your back might ache from sitting for hours, your fingers might become calloused and stained from the dyes, and your eyes might strain from the close, detailed work, especially as dusk approaches and the light fades. Imagine working by the flickering light of an oil lamp as the day winds down, trying to maintain the same precision you had in bright daylight. It's an exercise in endurance, both mental and physical. You probably wouldn't survive a single hour without wanting to check your phone, let alone spend an entire day in such quiet, focused labor. Meals would be simple, taken quickly at the loom or nearby, often a communal affair if you were in a workshop. Flatbread, cheese, olives, perhaps some dried fruit, sustenance for the long hours. The sounds would be gentle, the rhythmic thwack of the comb, the soft rustle of yarn, the occasional murmur of conversation or a sung verse. It's a symphony of quiet industry. A quirky tidbit: some ancient weavers, particularly those working on very large carpets, would sometimes tie small, almost invisible mistakes into their work. This was not due to error, but rather a deliberate act, born from the belief that only Allah is perfect, and human creations should always bear a subtle imperfection. It's a charming humility, a tiny artistic signature acknowledging a higher power. So, if you ever spot a barely noticeable anomaly in an old Persian carpet, it might just be a deliberate act of spiritual modesty, rather than a slip of the hand. Historians still argue whether the division of labor in carpet workshops was always strict or if weavers sometimes rotated tasks. While some aspects, like dyeing, were specialized, it's likely that in smaller workshops, weavers would be proficient in multiple stages of the process. It's a bit like a small artisanal bakery where the baker also kneads the dough, tins the oven, and decorates the cakes, as opposed to a large factory. As the day ends, your contribution to the carpet grows, perhaps by a few millimeters, perhaps by a centimeter or two. It's a slow, steady progress, but each day brings the masterpiece closer to completion. You might leave the loom, but the patterns, the colors, the rhythm of the knots would probably linger in your mind, a quiet hum that carries you into a well-earned sleep. It's a reminder that true beauty often emerges from patience, dedication, and the passage of quiet time. The intricate skills of carpet weaving weren't simply learned from a textbook. They were absorbed, practiced, and perfected through a long tradition of training and apprenticeship. Imagine a time when knowledge was a precious commodity, passed down not through online courses, but through direct, hands-on instruction from a seasoned master. It's a bit like learning to play a musical instrument, where repetition and observation are key, but instead of scales, you're practicing knots. For many, particularly in nomadic and village settings, the training began almost as soon as a child could reach the loom. Imagine a small child, perhaps 5 or 6 years old, sitting beside their mother, grandmother, or aunt, watching their nimble fingers tie hundreds of knots an hour. They wouldn't start with complex patterns. They'd begin by simply observing, then perhaps by inserting weft threads, or even just helping to prepare the yarn. It was an organic, immersive learning environment, where the rhythm of the loom became a familiar heartbeat in their young lives. As they grew older, they would gradually take on more complex tasks. They might start by tying simple rows of solid color, learning to maintain consistent tension and knot size. Then, perhaps, they'd move on to straight lines, then simple geometric shapes, slowly building up their proficiency. Imagine the patience required, both from the student and the teacher, as tiny mistakes were corrected, and countless hours were spent perfecting a seemingly simple technique. It's not unlike learning to write, where you first master individual letters before you can compose a novel. In the more formalized city workshops, the apprenticeship system was often more structured. A young apprentice, sometimes as young as 7 or 8, would be formally placed under the tutelage of a master weaver instead. This wasn't just about learning to weave. It was about learning discipline, patience, and respect for the craft. The apprentice would spend years observing, performing menial tasks like preparing warp threads, sorting yarns, or sweeping the workshop floor, gradually earning the right to touch the loom. It's like working your way up from being a coffee runner to finally getting to design the new office layout. The master weaver would meticulously guide the apprentice, correcting their hand movements, teaching them how to read a pattern diagram, Naksh, with precision, and instilling in them the importance of consistency and quality. Imagine the silence of the workshop, broken only by the soft thwack of the comb and the gentle murmur of instruction. There was no instant feedback, just slow, deliberate guidance, often conveyed through example rather than extensive verbal explanation. A single glance from the master could convey approval or a need for correction. One mainstream historical fact is that this apprenticeship system ensured the continuity of complex designs and highly specialized techniques across generations. Without written manuals or formal schools in the modern sense, the living transmission of knowledge from master to apprentice was absolutely crucial for preserving the art form. It's how traditions that seem impossibly intricate today were maintained and even advanced for centuries. A quirky tidbit about apprenticeships. Sometimes, the apprentices would sleep right in the workshop, living and breathing the craft day and night. Their lives were utterly dedicated to the loom, forging a deep connection to the art form that went beyond mere employment. You can almost feel the presence of those young, eager hands, dreaming of the day they too would be master weavers. Historians still argue whether the master-apprentice relationship was always purely instructional or sometimes involved broader social responsibilities, where the master effectively acted as a surrogate parent. It's likely a complex mix, varying from workshop to workshop and family to family. But what's clear is that the system produced generations of incredibly skilled artisans, each contributing to the enduring legacy of Persian carpet weaving. It's a testament to the power of human connection in the transmission of knowledge, far more intimate than any online tutorial could ever be. With a finished carpet, painstakingly woven over months or even years, its journey was often far from over. These magnificent textiles weren't just for local use. They became coveted commodities, traveling vast distances along ancient arteries of commerce. Let's trace the intricate pathways of the ancient carpet trade routes, imagining the quiet yet bustling movement of these luxurious goods across continents. It's like following a slow-motion, incredibly valuable treasure map. The most famous of these routes, of course, was the Silk Road. While primarily known for silk, this network of trade routes, stretching from China through Central Asia to the Middle East and Europe, was also a vital conduit for other precious goods, and Persian carpets were certainly among the most prized. Imagine caravans of camels, laden with bundles of rolled carpets, slowly traversing deserts and mountains, their bells jingling softly in the vast silence. You're not just moving a product, you're transporting a piece of culture, a work of art, a symbol of luxury. These journeys were incredibly arduous and long. From the weaving centers of Persia, carpets might travel west towards Mesopotamia, the Levant, and eventually the Mediterranean ports, from where they would be shipped across to Europe. Imagine a carpet being unrolled in a bustling marketplace in Damascus or Constantinople, drawing gasps of admiration from merchants and potential buyers. It's a far cry from clicking next-day delivery. To the east, carpets moved towards India and even as far as China. Persian influence on Indian carpet weaving, for instance, is quite evident, especially in the Mughal period. These routes weren't just about moving goods. They were also about the exchange of ideas, designs, and techniques. A motif seen on a carpet in one city might inspire a weaver thousands of miles away, creating a silent dialogue across cultures. It's like an ancient, slow-motion internet, sharing trends and inspiration through physical objects. Along these routes, numerous caravanserai, roadside inns where travelers and their animals could rest and resupply, dotted the landscape. Imagine a dusty courtyard, filled with the sounds of weary travelers, the smell of cooking fires, and the sight of precious cargo being carefully guarded. Carpets, being valuable, were always at risk from bandits, and the journey required constant vigilance. You're not just a merchant, you're also a kind of soft goods security guard. One mainstream historical fact is that the demand for Persian carpets in Europe skyrocketed during the Renaissance and subsequent centuries. European royalty and nobility were eager to display these exotic and luxurious items, viewing them as symbols of status and sophistication. Portraits of European monarchs from the 16th and 17th centuries often show them standing or sitting on what are clearly identifiable Persian carpets, even if the artists sometimes took creative liberties with the details. It's like the ultimate ancient celebrity endorsement, a subtle flex of wealth and taste. A quirky tidbit: some very large, particularly grand carpets would sometimes be cut into smaller pieces for easier transport and then meticulously reassembled at their destination. Imagine having to slice up a masterpiece just to get it across a mountain pass, knowing you'd have to stitch it back together perfectly on the other side. It speaks to the practical challenges of logistics in an age without forklifts and cargo planes. Historians still argue whether this practice was common or only reserved for the truly monumental pieces. Perhaps it depended on the desperation of the merchant or the narrowness of the mountain pass. The legacy of these trade routes is evident in museums and private collections around the world, where Persian carpets, centuries old, tell silent tales of their incredible journeys, Having witnessed empires rise and fall, cultures intertwine, and countless hands touch their woven surfaces. Each thread holds a whisper of the many miles it traveled, a gentle reminder of a truly globalized ancient world. Beyond their role as traded commodities, Persian carpets were utterly integral to daily life in ancient and early modern Persia. These weren't just decorative items to be admired from afar. They were active, living parts of the home, shaping the very way people lived, relaxed, and socialized. It's like imagining a home without furniture, then realizing the carpets were the furniture. Imagine stepping into a traditional Persian home, whether a humble nomadic tent or a grand urban dwelling. The first thing you'd notice is the absence of modern chairs and tables. Instead, the floor would be covered with beautiful carpets, serving a multitude of purposes. These weren't just floor coverings, they were the primary seating areas. People would sit directly on the carpets, perhaps leaning against cushions, to eat, converse, and entertain. You'd recline, chat, and generally exist in a much more horizontal fashion than many of us are used to. You probably wouldn't last 5 minutes before reaching for a back support, would you? Carpets also define spaces within a larger room. A central, grand carpet might delineate the main reception area, while smaller, simpler rugs might mark individual sleeping spots or prayer areas. It was a fluid, organic way of creating rooms within rooms, using textiles as architectural elements. It's like having movable walls made of soft, woven art. For nomadic tribes, carpets were even more multifunctional. They served as floors, walls, and even rudimentary doors for their portable tents, providing insulation against the harsh extremes of desert temperatures. You'd roll them up in the morning, pack them on your camels, and unfurl them again at your next campsite, bringing your portable comfort with you. It's the original home away from home concept, minus the room service. Prayer rugs, often smaller and featuring a mihrab, an arch-like design pointing towards Mecca, were a particularly sacred type of carpet. These were personal, often highly cherished items, used daily for spiritual devotion. Imagine the quiet reverence with which a weaver would create such a piece, knowing its profound purpose. Each knot could almost be seen as a small act of faith. A mainstream historical fact is that carpets were also used as bed coverings, blankets, and even saddle covers for horses and camels, adding a layer of warmth and decoration to almost every aspect of life. You'd literally sleep under the same art you walked on during the day. It's an immersion in textile beauty that's hard for us to fully grasp today, where our textiles are often hidden away or designed for single purposes. Beyond the practical, carpets imbued spaces with beauty, color, and a sense of luxury, even in relatively modest homes. They provided a soft, comfortable surface for walking barefoot, absorbing sounds, and creating a warm, inviting atmosphere. Imagine the visual richness, the way the light would play across the different textures and colors, bringing the intricate designs to life. It's like stepping into a living painting. A quirky tidbit: some carpets were even designed to be hung on walls, particularly in colder regions, or as decorative elements to showcase their artistry. These wall hangings were often very finely woven, almost like tapestries, and sometimes depicted narrative scenes or grand garden designs. It's like having a giant, soft mural warming both the eye and the room. Historians still argue whether the wall-hanging trend primarily served decorative purposes or if it was also a way to preserve particularly valuable or fragile pieces from wear and tear on the floor. Perhaps it was a practical decision with a beautiful outcome. Ultimately, these carpets were more than just objects. They were silent companions to generations of Persian families, witnessing countless conversations, meals, and moments of quiet contemplation. They absorbed the life of the home, carrying the subtle sense of daily existence, the echoes of laughter, and the gentle wear of countless bare feet. They are truly the woven soul of a culture. While Persian carpet weaving reached incredible heights, it wasn't a journey without its ups and downs. The art form has experienced periods of decline and revival throughout its long history, often reflecting the broader political and economic fortunes of the region. Imagine a slow, rhythmic breath, with periods of sustained flourishing followed by quieter, more challenging times, only to gather strength and re-emerge. One major period of decline occurred after the fall of the Safavid dynasty in 1736. The subsequent centuries saw a period of political instability and conflict in Persia. With the loss of strong royal patronage, the large, centralized workshops that had produced the grand masterpieces of the Safavid era largely dissipated. Imagine the master designers and skilled weavers, once supported by the court, now struggling to find consistent work. It's like a grand orchestra suddenly losing its conductor and its patrons, leaving individual musicians to play their own tunes. During this period, carpet production became more decentralized, returning largely to village and nomadic traditions. While these weavers continued to produce beautiful and culturally significant pieces, the sheer scale, intricacy, and technical perfection of the Safavid court carpets became much rarer. The designs often became simpler, bolder, and more stylized, reflecting the local aesthetics and available resources. It's a shift from grand symphonies to intimate folk songs, each with its own charm, but a different kind of complexity. Historians still argue whether this period represents a true decline in artistic merit or simply a natural evolution and adaptation to changing circumstances. Perhaps it was a necessary regrounding of the art form, away from courtly extravagance and back to its roots. However, the late 19th and early 20th centuries saw a significant revival in Persian carpet weaving, largely driven by renewed international demand. As European and American markets developed a greater appreciation for Oriental rugs, a new wave of commercial production began. Merchants and entrepreneurs, both Persian and foreign, invested in establishing new workshops and re-energizing traditional weaving centers. Imagine a sleepy art form slowly awakening, spurred by the quiet hum of global interest. Cities like Tabriz, Kerman, Mashhad, and Isfahan once again became major weaving hubs. This revival brought with it a renewed emphasis on quality and traditional designs, often drawing inspiration from the classical Safavid patterns. Weavers were encouraged to produce finer knots, more intricate details, and a wider range of colors to meet the discerning tastes of international buyers. It's like a classical music piece being rediscovered and performed by a new generation of virtuosos. One mainstream historical fact from this revival period is the significant role played by European and American companies and collectors in commissioning and exporting carpets. This renewed interest provided the economic impetus for the industry to flourish again, employing thousands of weavers and supporting an entire ecosystem of dyers, spinners, and designers. You could say that capitalism, for all its complexities, gave this ancient art form a much-needed second wind. A quirky tidbit from this era: some carpets woven for the Western market began to incorporate subtle elements or color palettes that they believed would appeal more to European tastes. It was a delicate balance between maintaining traditional Persian aesthetics and adapting to new market demands, a quiet negotiation between cultures woven into the very fabric. You might find a carpet that looks traditionally Persian at first glance, but on closer inspection, it has a slightly different feel, a subtle nod to its intended destination. The cycles of decline and revival demonstrate the resilience and adaptability of Persian carpet weaving. It shows that even a centuries-old art form is not static. It breathes, it adapts, and it finds new ways to express its timeless beauty, sometimes retreating into its quieter, traditional forms, only to re-emerge with renewed vigor when the conditions are right. Despite the impressive revivals, the ancient art of Persian carpet weaving now faces a new set of modern challenges. Imagine a venerable old craft trying to find its footing in a rapidly changing, industrialized, and digitized world. It's a bit like a majestic old tree trying to grow in a concrete jungle. Perhaps the biggest challenge comes from synthetic dyes. While natural dyes produce incredibly beautiful and lasting colors, their preparation is laborious, time-consuming, and expensive. The advent of synthetic dyes, often cheaper and easier to apply, revolutionized the industry in the 20th century. While some synthetics can be stable, many are not as light-fast or color-fast as traditional natural dyes, leading to carpets that fade more quickly or have less nuanced coloration. You might buy a vibrant, mass-produced carpet today, only to find its colors looking dull in a few years, a stark contrast to a natural-dyed piece that deepens its beauty with age. It's like comparing a fresh, artisanal bread to a quickly baked, pre-sliced loaf. Both are bred, but one is clearly superior in quality and longevity. Historians still argue about the precise moment synthetic dyes truly began to dominate the market and whether this shift irrevocably damaged the industry's artistic integrity. Then there's the challenge of mass production. Traditional Persian carpets are, by their very nature, slow-made, handcrafted works of art. Each knot is tied by hand. But the global market often demands speed and low cost, leading to the rise of machine-made carpets that mimic traditional designs. These carpets can be produced at a fraction of the time and cost, but they lack the unique character, the subtle imperfections, and the soul that comes from human hands. You can instantly tell the difference if you look closely. The uniformity of a machine-made rug compared to the unique variations in a hand-knotted piece. It's like comparing a meticulously hand-painted canvas to a mass-produced print. Another significant challenge is the decline in traditional weaving skills. As younger generations are drawn to more urban areas and modern professions, fewer individuals are choosing to dedicate their lives to the laborious craft of hand weaving. The long apprenticeships, the years of quiet dedication, don't always appeal in a world that offers quicker paths to income. Imagine trying to convince a teenager today to spend 10 years tying knots by hand instead of learning to code. It's a genuine struggle to keep the intricate knowledge alive and pass it on. The global economy also presents difficulties. Fluctuations in wool prices, changes in international trade policies, and competition from other carpet-producing nations all impact the Persian carpet industry. It's a complex web of economic forces, far removed from the simple transactions of ancient caravan routes. One quirky tidbit: some contemporary Persian weavers are now consciously reintroducing small, deliberate imperfections into their new carpets, in a nod to the ancient belief that only divine perfection exists, and to distinguish their hand-knotted pieces from the flawless uniformity of machine-made rugs. It's a modern twist on an old tradition, a subtle act of rebellion against mechanical precision. The economic pressure to produce faster and cheaper can sometimes lead to shortcuts in the weaving process, such as looser knots or less durable materials, which can unfortunately compromise the quality and longevity of the carpets. It's a sad reality when an emphasis on quantity overtakes the pursuit of quality. Despite these challenges, the demand for authentic, high-quality hand-knotted Persian carpets remains strong among connoisseurs and those who appreciate true artistry. It's a niche market, perhaps, but a passionate one, valuing the beauty, history, and enduring quality that only a genuine handmade piece can offer. The struggle is real, but the spirit of the ancient craft endures. In the face of modern challenges, there's a powerful counter-movement focused on the preservation efforts of this ancient art. Imagine a quiet army of passionate individuals, organizations, and even governments working diligently to ensure that the delicate skills and profound beauty of Persian carpet weaving don't fade into history. It's a race against time, but one filled with immense dedication and hope. One significant effort involves the establishment of weaving schools and training centers that specifically teach traditional methods. These aren't just vocational schools, they are custodians of cultural heritage. Here, young apprentices are taught not only the intricate knotting techniques, but also the art of natural dyeing, the understanding of traditional patterns, and the historical context of the craft. Imagine rows of students, their hands guided by experienced masters, slowly bringing complex designs to life, ensuring that the knowledge leapfrogs generations. It's like a living library, where the books are made of wool and the stories are woven into existence. Many organizations are also actively promoting the use of natural dyes again. They work with farmers to cultivate dye plants like madder and indigo, and they support artisans who are skilled in the complex, traditional dyeing processes. This isn't just about color. It's about authenticity and sustainability, ensuring that the carpets of today are as vibrant and enduring as those from centuries past. You might find workshops dedicated solely to experimenting with forgotten natural dye recipes, trying to recreate the exact shades found in ancient fragments. It's a bit like archaeological detective work, but with vats of simmering plants instead of dusty digging tools. Another crucial aspect of preservation is the focus on fair trade practices. This helps ensure that weavers, who put countless hours into their creations, receive fair compensation for their work. When you buy a truly authentic, hand-knotted Persian carpet through fair trade channels, you're not just acquiring a beautiful object. You're directly supporting the livelihoods of the artisans and contributing to the sustainability of the craft. It's a quiet investment in human skill and tradition. Museums and cultural institutions also play a vital role. They curate and preserve historical carpets, making them accessible to scholars and the public. These collections serve as invaluable archives of designs, techniques, and historical trends, inspiring new generations of weavers and designers. Imagine a young weaver standing in front of an ancient Safavid masterpiece, feeling a deep connection to the hands that created it centuries ago, drawing inspiration for their own work. It's like a conversation across time, spoken in threads. One mainstream historical fact from modern preservation efforts is the increasing recognition of Persian carpet weaving by international bodies like UNESCO, which has designated it as part of humanity's intangible cultural heritage. This recognition provides a framework for international cooperation and support in safeguarding the craft. It's a global acknowledgement of a uniquely valuable art form. A quirky tidbit: some contemporary designers are collaborating with traditional weavers, incorporating modern aesthetics and sustainable materials into new carpet designs while still adhering to hand-knotting techniques. This fusion breathes new life into the art form, appealing to a broader audience and demonstrating its adaptability without compromising its core integrity. You might see a very minimalist, abstract design executed with the same meticulous knotting that would have been used for a classical medallion, a fascinating blend of old and new. Historians still argue about the extent to which modernization can truly coexist with the preservation of ancient traditions without diluting their essence. Perhaps the key lies in finding that delicate balance, a quiet harmony between innovation and legacy. These preservation efforts are about more than just saving an art form. They're about safeguarding a way of life, a cultural identity, and a profound connection to human ingenuity and artistry that has spanned millennia. Every knot saved, every natural dye revived, every weaver trained, is a gentle step towards ensuring this ancient beauty endures for generations to come. So, as we reach the end of our quiet journey through the world of Persian carpet weaving, we're left with a profound appreciation for its enduring legacy. This isn't just a story about knots and dyes. It's a testament to human creativity, patience, and the timeless pursuit of beauty. Imagine a thread stretching back thousands of years, connecting us directly to the hands and minds of ancient artisans. It's a quiet whisper across millennia. The Persian carpet, in all its varied forms, has influenced art, culture, and design across the globe. From the grand Safavid masterpieces that graced European palaces to the humble, earthy rugs of nomadic tents, their aesthetic language has become universal. You see echoes of their patterns in everything from modern textiles to architectural motifs. It's like a secret handshake among designers, a subtle nod to a deep, rich history. Beyond the aesthetics, the very act of weaving embodies a philosophy of patience and dedication that feels almost radical in our fast-paced world. Think about the years, the quiet hours, the meticulous attention to detail required for a single, large carpet. It's a powerful reminder that some of the greatest creations arise not from haste, but from slow, deliberate effort. You're not just looking at a carpet, you're looking at concentrated time, woven into being. The tactile experience of a Persian carpet is also part of its enduring appeal. The feel of the soft, dense pile beneath your bare feet, the way the colors shift with the light, the subtle irregularities that tell you a human hand, not a machine, brought it to life. It engages your senses in a way that few other objects can. It's a sensory balm, a comfort underfoot, and a feast for the eyes. Even in our modern world, with all its technological marvels, there's a persistent yearning for the authentic, the handcrafted, the object with a story. A true Persian carpet offers all of that and more. It's a piece of history, a work of art, and a profound connection to a culture that has perfected this craft over countless generations. You're not just buying a floor covering. You're adopting a piece of soul, a fragment of human history that has absorbed the quiet moments of countless lives. One mainstream historical fact is that Persian carpets continue to be highly sought after in the global art market, with antique pieces fetching astronomical prices at auctions. further cementing their status as valuable cultural artifacts and investment pieces. It's a testament to their enduring quality and beauty that they continue to appreciate and value over time. A quirky tidbit: some collectors describe developing a sort of relationship with their antique carpets, finding new details and nuances in the patterns as the years go by, almost as if the carpet is slowly revealing more of its secrets. It's a living art, constantly offering new perspectives to those who pause and truly observe. Historians still argue about whether the spiritual significance once imbued in these carpets by their creators can still be felt by modern owners, or if it's simply a projection of appreciation. Perhaps the energy of patient creation lingers within the fibers, a gentle resonance for those willing to feel it. As you drift off tonight, imagine the countless hands, the thousands of hours, the generations of quiet dedication that have gone into creating these woven wonders. They are more than just objects. They are tangible whispers of a long and beautiful history, inviting you to simply relax, breathe, and let the intricate patterns of their legacy gently carry you into dreams. And now, as the last threads of our story gently settle, feel the quiet comfort of the knowledge we've shared. The world of Persian carpets, with its soft colors and intricate patterns, has unfolded like a lullaby tonight. Let your mind release the last of the day's concerns, allowing the gentle hum of ancient looms and the scent of natural dyes to fill your imagination. You've journeyed through sun-drenched workshops and across vast, silent trade routes, witnessing beauty born of patience and dedication. There's nothing more to do now, nowhere to be, except here, in this quiet moment. Let the softness of the story wrap around you, a comforting blanket of history. Just breathe slowly, deeply, and let the gentle rhythm of rest take hold. You've done wonderfully just by listening. Drift now, with the subtle beauty of ancient art as your guide, into a deep, peaceful sleep. End of script. Sweet dreams.